About Brent. Brent was an average farm boy raised in the Midwest, mostly a meat and potatoes kind of guy. He knew everything tasted just a little better when it was fresh from the garden. Brent played football on the high school team. He wasn't their star player, wasn't the star quarterback, but he could hold his own. He was mostly a B and C student, with an occasional grade dipping a little lower than that. Especially in Mr. DeMerge's geometry class. He was always expecting him to know where places were, what the names of things were. He never understood why that was terribly important. So he always kind of blamed Mr. DeMerge for his lower grade in geography. Brent was a church-going Christian. He never missed a Sunday, except the time when he was 8 and had the chicken pox, and the time when he was 13 and the flu bug was going around and he caught such a bad strain of it, knocked him flat on his back for over a week. He didn't make it to church. Then there was the time that his family took vacation to see the big trees in California. Now, he didn't actually miss church that Sunday because they went to a different church, but he wasn't at his home church where he was every other week, except on very special occasions. He would be in his church with his family in their pew. His mom, his dad, his older brother Donald, and the twins, Mary and Michelle. His life changed pretty drastically when he graduated from high school, when he decided to enlist in the Army. He felt like his country needed him. And so, in June of 2011, he shipped out to Fort Benning, Georgia, where the temperature and humidity seemed to always read about the same, 100. He wasn't sure which was worse, the hot sand in his uniform, the scorpions, the black widow spiders, or the drill sergeants that always seemed to be lurking around every corner. He began to wonder if he hadn't made a mistake in joining the Army. But as the weeks went by, he made it through okay. Maybe football practice had paid off in the end. And he did well. In fact, he did so well in basic training that they allowed him to go to jump school. And after making his 5 jumps successfully, he was 3rd in his class when they pinned the wings on his uniform. He was very proud of that fact. Then, even then, he still sometimes had to wonder, why would anybody jump out of a perfectly good airplane? But that's what the drill sergeant said, so that's what he did. After graduation, he went for some more training, and he was shipped off he and his unit were shipped off to Afghanistan, where he would be working with a unit whose mission was to train Afghani soldiers so that when NATO pulled out, they would be able to keep the peace and keep order. Brent was partnered with a young Afghani soldier named Ali. Now, Ali had a similar background to Brent, although, how similar could it be in Afghanistan versus the Midwest? But it was as similar as it could get. He was raised in a loving family. He had 2 siblings, a younger brother and a younger sister. And Ali was fond of reminding Brent that Brent played fake football, that Ali played the real football, soccer, what we call soccer. As they worked together, as they partnered on several missions, they began to share the stories of their lives. They began to teach each other. And Brent was teaching Ali the military things as best he could, teaching him how to patrol and how to work with a team. But as they were doing this, their lives became intertwined. They shared stories of their families back home, which was much further for Brent than Ali, but still a distance from Ali. They showed pictures of their siblings and their parents. They talked about their future and their hopes and their dreams, what sort of girls they would marry, and how many kids they wanted. They exchanged their lives. They exchanged native cuisine. They got to try each other's food. They taught each other jokes. They grew close. Ali and Brent grew close. But one day, something tragic happened. Brent and Ali and their unit were out on a patrol, and they were involved in a firefight. The lead vehicle had hit an IED and immediately knocked it over, disabling the vehicle and the people inside were injured badly. And the rear vehicle was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade, immediately disabled. Many were hurt and injured, and it was an ambush. All of the people in the two vehicles between ran for cover. They were in an urban setting, so they couldn't just go around. They ran for cover, took up defensive positions, and began firing at the enemy, who seemed to be everywhere and anywhere and nowhere all at once. The bullets were coming and flying overhead and hitting too close every so often. They were nervous. They were scared. They weren't even sure that help was coming. They couldn't be sure that help was coming. They weren't sure if anybody had gotten a call off or if the radio operator was still alive. They just had no idea if or when help would arrive. Then the unthinkable happened. Ali turned to Brent and shot him. Ali knew that the dated interceptor body armor that Brent was wearing, he knew exactly where to shoot. Right over here, across the shoulder. The bullet came out of the chest, leaving a gaping chest wound, and Brent wasn't even sure. He wasn't sure that the bullet had gone away. He wasn't sure if the armor had actually bounced it back in and hit him lower. He couldn't be sure because he hurt all over, and there was blood everywhere, and he was lying on his face on the concrete and the rubble and the dust. His arm hanging lifeless and limp at the side, and his weapon dropped on the ground because his arm was now useless. He was laying there for just a few minutes and trying to shake off the stun and the amazement at what had happened. Finally, he was able to push himself over with his left arm so that he could face Ali, helpless. His weapon was down on the ground, but there was nothing he could do to get it. And so he looked at Ali and just waited. He waited for whatever Ali was going to do next. Brent was hurt. The wound was serious, and Brent knew that he was dying and would die if help didn't arrive immediately. But Brent was also hurt in another way. See, Ali had betrayed him. He had trusted Ali, and Ali had turned on him. And he just watched as Ali approached and stood over him. But just waited for whatever Ali was going to do next. But Ali just stood there and looked at him, as if Ali was waiting for Brent to do something or say something. And Ali's head kind of cocked to the side and just kind of looked at Brent. Brent's first reaction was, I've got to get up and run. I've got to get out of here. But he very quickly realized that he couldn't go anywhere. First of all, he was injured so badly that he couldn't get up. But even if he could, where would he go? There were bullets flying around, and enemies would shoot him down. But even if he could get out, even if Ali wasn't there, and even if the enemies were shooting, and he was able to run, how far would he get? He knew he wouldn't get very far. He would bleed to death before he got anywhere. So the next thing that passed through Brent's mind was this hot, red flash of rage as it began to settle into him what had actually happened. He wanted to stand up and punch Ali right in the nose. When something came into his mind, it reminded him, this feeling, this visceral rage, this feeling that he was having reminded him of another event in his life, and that was the time when he and Donald were loading hay into the barn. Donald was up top in the loft, and Brent was down at the bottom loading the bales onto the elevator. Well, Donald, it seems, had found a dead rat up at the top of the barn, and he decided that it would be a good idea to play a joke on his little brother, and he threw this rat down at Brent without Brent even realizing when he was coming, and it hit him right in the side of the face, and it hurt so bad, and it was so disgusting. And he looked up, and Donald was up in the loft laughing his head off, and Brent just felt this rage come over him, and he jumped on that elevator and scurried up the elevator. He dove headfirst into Donald and knocked him over into the bales of hay, and then began to punch and kick and bite and squeeze and twist and pull and grunt and elbow. And They just kicked up such a mess in the barn. They knocked over 30 or 40 bales of hay as they were fighting and wrestling around in the hayloft. The only reason they stopped, well, they were both exhausted, but they would have kept going. The only reason they stopped was they had kicked up enough dust that they began sneezing and coughing and hacking. And they fell over exhausted in the hay. They wore the battle scars for the next several weeks. Black eye, bruises. They wore those scars for the next several weeks. So Brent realized something. He was angry at Ali like he had been angry at Donald, like a brother.